My only tip for trash talking would be
Steph Curry is one of the most well-known and beloved names in history of the NBA, and whether you like the Warriors team he's led or not, you gotta admit that Curry is one of the most prolific shooters in the history of the sport. But did you know Curry's also living a pretty interesting life off the court? Well, in this video, we're gonna go into what things are like for him outside the NBA. But first, make sure that you like the video and subscribe to the channel, as well as hit the post notification bell so you're kept up to date on all the stuff we put out there. Expensive tastes. A lot of players in the NBA have expensive tastes, and it's not hard to see why. The star players in the league make tens of millions of dollars a year, and on top of that, endorsements often sometimes bring in just as much or more every year. With salaries like this, it's only natural that a lot of players enjoy big homes and expensive cars, and Curry is no exception to that rule. He's shown through his career that he has expensive tastes when it comes to things like fashion, cars, and real estate. His car collection alone is one of the places where this is the easiest to see. Many players drive nice cars, but Curry, well, he takes it over the top compared to others in the game, and he can afford to do so, being one of the most successful and highest paid players over the last decade. The Porsche 911 is one of the most famous by the performance automaker in the sports community, and Curry has one of those in his garage, specifically a 2017 Porsche GTS RS. The car might look familiar on a racetrack compared to the city streets, and that's because it is the performance kind of vehicle used in racing, rather than the one mainly designed for consumers. You can find plenty of images out there of this very kind of car which is being used at racetracks. But in the case of Curry's auto collection, it's just another nice ride to choose from out of many options. The car boasts a price tag of over $180,000, which just goes to show how few people can actually afford to buy it. But that is a drop in the bucket for Curry, who's one of the highest paid players in the entire NBA. While some players only own one or two expensive cars, Curry has invested in a lot more options. He's used to own another expensive Porsche, a Panamera Turbo S that carries with a price tag of $150,000. This car is not one that Curry's going to be driving again, however, and not because that he sold it or got bored, but because this one was totaled in a wreck in 2018. Curry himself came out of the scene unhurt and was even able to take pictures at the scene of the crash. But the car wasn't so lucky and would have to be written off because of the damages. Now that doesn't mean Curry is lacking with options. There's plenty of other things in his garage even after one of his cars was wrecked. This includes some other names that have mass recognizability and appeal, such as the Mercedes G-Wagen, the distinctly boxy truck that, for the variant that Curry has specifically, cost over $120,000. Curry has even gone so far as to invest in the electric car trend by ending up getting himself a Tesla Model X for $93,000. Cheap compared to some of the other vehicles in his collection, but still a luxury item for the average person. There's other vehicles in Curry's collection, but these are just some of the most notable ones. And given his habit for collecting and expanding the number of cars in his selection, it might be hard to see which ones are actually current. The ones mentioned before are just some of the most well-known ones that you'll find in Curry's garage. Big-time real estate. As we mentioned previously, Curry is one of the few guys in the NBA that carries expensive tastes. But that doesn't just apply to cars. It even applies to real estate, based on the place that Curry moved to following the Warriors' move back from Oakland and San Francisco. Curry would make a move around the same time to follow the team, and in the process, leveled up big time when it comes to NBA player houses. Curry made the move to San Mateo County following the Warriors making their own move. And not only that, he moved to one of the most expensive towns in the county. That town is Atherton, California. It might not be as familiar of a place compared to something like Hidden Hills or Calabasas, but Atherton is definitely just as rich as those other celebrity retreats within the same state. Atherton, after all, has been ranked as the second most expensive zip code in the county by Forbes. Curry definitely was not being frugal with spending when he and his wife ended up buying their house in Atherton. He would splash out a massive $31 million on the property, giving him one of the most expensive homes out of any NBA players. This puts Curry right up there with some of others like Michael Jordan and LeBron that have made huge investments in real estate with their NBA profits. And and the value of the specific property has only gone up dramatically over the years. Before the current mansion was even built, the property was acquired for $6.5 million by the previous owner, but that owner would develop the site to be more modern and eventually sold it to the Curry family for $31 million. The 2019 purchase of the mansion also puts the Curry family around high-class company, which includes WhatsApp CEO Jan Koeman, as well as other big-time figures from the near Silicon Valley and foreign investors looking for a quiet getaway. It looks like Curry is going to more than likely end up playing his entire career with the Warriors. And when you consider the purchase of this property in the Bay Area, it's easy to understand why that's the case. Curry's invested a lot of firmly planting himself and his family in the area, and it doesn't look like he's going to leave anytime soon, especially after upgrading to a nice and expensive mansion like this one. Off the court hobbies. Everyone has something that they like doing outside of their job, and NBA players are no exception. In the case of Steph Curry, he has some hobbies that you might find interesting or unexpected. One of those is actually the sport of golf, and it's not typically associated with basketball players. However, it does make perfect sense as a second sport for somebody in the NBA. Most contracts in the NBA don't let players pursue a second contact sport or play basketball in pickup games or even street tournaments. The reason, of course, is that it's easy for players to get injured in these games, and NBA owners want to protect their valuable investments in huge contracts for these players. But golf, on the other hand, well, that's a pretty safe sport when it comes to the risk of injury. Curry's not just a casual player of golf either. His interest in the sport was enough that it competed with basketball for his attention. And in some strange alternate reality, it's quite possible that we could have seen Curry as a star in the world of golf rather than in the NBA. Quote, "If I had to put as much time into golf as I did basketball, could I have made it?" Curry once asked. "We'll never know, but it's always competed in terms of my attention." Some of the most well-known celebrity names that Curry has competed against include Phil Mickelson, Charles Barkley, and Peyton Manning. And that was just in one event, which was broadcast on TNT. Curry picked up the game from his father, Dell, and would originally drive his golf cart, but that would turn into taking some shots himself and eventually building a real interest in the game. According to Curry, he found himself on the basketball court thinking about his next round of golf at times, and he says that habit stayed with him even through the NBA. And that about lines up with what we've seen of Curry since he's come into the league. We've seen him in multiple televised golf tournaments since then, and it looks like he'll be involved in more in the future. Interestingly enough, Curry has talked about the potential of playing golf professionally. He's competed in the Ellie Mae Classic a couple of times and stated that the nervousness he faced when trying to compete with pro golfers was bigger than any nervousness he felt in the NBA. Also, Will Gray with NBC Sports has stated that Curry's skills are strong enough that he could be a competitor week in and week out in a professional golf game if he did focus on it 12 months out of the year instead of splitting his time between that and basketball. We aren't going to see Curry retire from the NBA to become a golfer anytime soon, but hey, who knows, right? He's getting up there in age, and maybe after his career with the Warriors wraps up, we'll see him move sports instead of retiring from athletics altogether. There is one other unconventional thing that Curry has revealed as a hobby of his. This one, though, is one that Curry himself has called more embarrassing compared to other hobbies. Quote, "One of my favorite pastimes is organizing the garage," Curry said in an interview with GQ. Sounds strange, right? Well, Curry has an expansion for exactly what he gets out of putting things in order in the garage. Quote, "That's when I get in my zone. Just doing the shelves, putting shoe boxes here, moving athletic equipment over there, everything in its place. That's my zone. That's my area," Curry said. To be fair, we can imagine that he does have a large garage to organize. Not only does Curry live in a large mansion, but his large car collection also does need somewhat of a bit of love. It's also fair to cut him a little slack due to his busy schedule, with NBA training and games, taking care of a family, playing golf, handling endorsements and press conferences, and all the other things that come along with the NBA life. It's not really surprising, then, that Curry gets something out of much simpler and calmer of an activity to do around the house.